See, you try to become like God whenever through your own carnal mind and nature try to save yourself through your own power, through your own will. When this tree of knowledge of good and evil, when you eat from that, then you're trying to become like God. And that's pride. See, that's this nature of pride. It sees something good, and that's kind of the deception behind it all, because it sees something good and it thinks that it's right. You know, your meatball brain, it looks into the world and it sees these certain things that are good, and it thinks that they're good, and it thinks that, trying to go after God in the certain way that it thinks that it has to do it, which is usually through some kind of works and doing things, and that is trying to become like God, and you can never become like God. Even the thought of that is really just insane, of becoming like God, because the way that God set it up is actually paradoxical, because you have to die to know God. That's how He made it. Everything is opposite and upside down than what your carnal mind tells you is the way to God. And that's what happens when you're eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Everything is flipped the wrong way, and your perception is dim, or your perception is darkened, and you're not able to clearly see the right way. So the way that you think to get to God is not right. And you're going to have a lot of suffering and pain, but a lot of times that is what leads people to finally realize it. But what the Bible is teaching us and what Jesus is actually teaching us is that we die to ourself. We become nothing in our brains, in our carnal mind, and then God exalts us up and the Spirit of God comes alive in us, and then we know God. But it's not of our own worldly brain and thinking and knowledge that we know God. It's through the voiceless voice and the understanding. When we get still and we go within, and then we know God through that. Through the putting off of the old nature, those things begin to come up and we see that they're lies. We see that we've been judging ourselves through our own mind and making ourselves guilty. And a lot of these things we've been creating in them ourselves because we've been playing God. We've been playing God through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and making judgments on ourselves and on the world and on other people through our own carnal mind. And when you made those judgments, you actually entered into doubt. And now you're in a world where that doubt has to be kept alive, because now it becomes kind of like a faith in God, but it's a faith in the kingdom of hell, and it has to be kept alive. That's the duality, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So then you become like God, because now you're making judgments about what you think the Bible means and about what all this stuff in the world and how you interpret it and all this and all that, and it's all wrong. You're wrong if you're doing that. And you have to see that you're wrong, and you have to die to that. Die to that self that you're creating. It's a false self. It's a lying self. It's a child of the devil. And when you die to that, you'll come alive to God. And then you're born again. You're from above. Heaven is within you. And you stop sinning. You don't sin anymore, because when you're born again, you cannot sin, because that seed that's from God, it can't sin. What God creates, the seed, this nature, this new man of God, God creates it. What comes from God has no sin in it. It can't sin. See, you're not creating it. That's the whole lie, and why you have to get your brain and your mind out of the way is because it doesn't understand that. It doesn't understand heaven. When it tries to read the Bible and think that it knows and try to interpret all that, it can't understand that, because it wants to create it. See, it wants to be God. It wants to do this stuff naturally, because that's what it is. It's like a pride. Tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's the level that it's on, and you have to bypass it. You have to overcome it through Jesus Christ, die to yourself, and then you come alive to God, and then you can really see. And you don't listen to all the talk in your mind anymore that's making judgments and thinks that it knows and tries to be like God, like Lucifer, because that's where it's coming from, okay? And you don't sin anymore, and if you think that you can sin, you're confused and deceived still. Because it says that if you still sin, then you don't know God. So all these Christians that are saying that you still sin, they don't know God. They're still sinning. They still think that that's true. Because the nature of God can't. But it's been good, maturing in God, growing in God. Just nothing but joy and peace. So we're just so thankful. We're so thankful that God is maturing us and growing us out of the milk understandings and into the meat understandings, into maturity, right? We're going from reflecting darkly and dimly, right? Because all we're doing is reflecting the image of God in us. We're not creating it. It's just being reflected in us, brighter and brighter and brighter. More glory, more glory. The image of Christ. And it's like in a mirror, reflecting back, like when you look in a mirror, reflection. And when we see face to face, then that's glory, right? That's when we're becoming mature. But see, most people are still seeing dimly, seeing darkly, still seeing through their carnal minds and interpreting everything through that. And then they're confused and making up lies, and they don't know God. So we got to get out of that. But God is good. He's doing a lot of great things. There's just so much joy, even though most of the people in the world are still confused, still don't know these things. I still have hope. I'm seeing some people waking up, I'm seeing some people coming out of it. And I'm just can't even believe, that I've been graced enough to have this understanding and knowledge that I do. I'm so thankful that, when I look and when I really finally woke up, I just couldn't believe that, everything is so different. It was just, I couldn't believe that the truth is what it is, and that most of the things that the pastors and all these people were saying and doing and all the stuff going on, it's just so different. It's so different, and it's just unbelievable. It's amazing. So God bless. God's doing great things, going to continue to do it. More glory. God bless.